I was thinking. Isn't democracy brilliant? It propels the will of the people forward in the form of a leader and a party, and the will of the people is holier than all else, unless of course they're wrong. Now before you start calling me some sort of anarcho-Nazi communist lizard person, I think the idea of democracy is, as others have put forward, deeply flawed, but it is also better than any other system. But at least it keeps the plebeians sated and feeling empowered, well unless they're in one of the free world's many ghettos, I mean inner cities, I mean under versatile economic sub-medium light orange to red zones. The problem with democracy is that when you divide people into nations, you encourage xenophobia. No, not that, please don't put the pincers on my brain in a FEMA camp that doesn't exist. I misspoke, nations are great. What I mean to say is the problem is the bloated corruption and inaction that often comes with democracy, like dating a supermodel whose breath smells like onions and bollocks. You know you've reached the pinnacle of seeking out a representative of the people when you've got the wife of someone who is premier for the maximum allowed term and a billionaire. I often find myself looking at leadership contenders and saying to myself, well, this person isn't from a sagging dynasty that's pulling more baggage than a tugboat or an extremely rich celebrity, or so utterly peppered with scandal Ollie North is looking like a viable contender for 2020. Who the fuck do they think they are? Don't get me wrong, democracy is absolutely better than Hitler, unless it's voting in Hitler, or the politicians are sitting around giving themselves constant pay rises despite public spending being slashed, or the politicians are giving government contracts to their mother-in-laws and uncles, or the politicians are, oh, you get the picture. Is this getting a bit heavy? Well, here's me doing an impression of a chicken. You see, no anti-democracy demagogue has ever been funny, so lay down your criticism, I'm alright.
Bread and circuses and guns and butter.
The real problem with democracy is no one's going to vote in the grey-faced dwarf who shakes when he speaks, wants to raise taxes and has a completely sound plan for eliminating the national debt and preventing an economic meltdown the next guy will have to deal with anyway. You see, electioneering is all about telling people things are going to get better for them, not let's tighten our belts just a little bit to help those poor people you think you're better than anyway, those lazy bastards. Then again, what do I know? I'm from a place ruled by a queen, well I mean ruled in the same way Ozzy Osbourne is king of his house, a place where a party can get 12.6% of the national vote but secure only one parliamentary seat in 650. But then again, no matter how much more democratic proportional representation might be, it's going to be long tarred by that whole Hitler thing. Don't know if you remember that one. You see, I guess if we were to have an absolute democracy where people were to vote on every single thing from how thick the new road's tarmac should be to how many smacks in the teeth Piers Morgan needs, or even if there was a representative of every single issue at hand, things would just take too long. For God's sake, there's fox hunting to ban, llama owners to persecute, and petty cash to feck. What about the politicians themselves? The few normals amongst them are so few and far between they start to look like some sort of suited supermen next to Teeth McIncest and Barry not-so-crypto-racist Porkley. Those people, let's face it, are voted for at least somewhat for their personality. I mean, do you want Ed Gein or Jez Adama? You start to realise how dangerous it might actually be if someone charismatic and without any skeletons to out came along and started saying all sorts of things about actually doing something sometime. Don't get me wrong, there are some politicians with actual, integrity, RIP Robin Cook, but I get the sense that those that didn't go into politics because they're narcissistic psychopaths or looking to have their arseholes massaged by lobbyists and vested interests either get chewed back down to the little leagues pretty quick or undergo the sort of transformation akin to leaving an open jar of mayonnaise in the blazing sun. And also, do you know how fucking hard it is to overthrow a democracy? If you look at the country I may or may not live in, the bent Republic of Kleptostan, where the government is complicit in wholesale murder with the objective of stealing as much as it can, the people, I hypothesize and must make clear for my intelligence service handlers' friends that I am not involved in any action to subvert so-called but not really democracy, the people have nothing to overthrow. Give them a dictatorship and they can rebel against it. Give them a revolving door of scum-sucking thieves who really are not working together but are mutually complicit in an unbelievably corrupt system, and what can you do? Well, make sure to vote for the balding Englishman with a French-German name. I promise you my cathartic reign will at least be action-packed. Let the Hunger Games begin! Just a thought. Anyway, me and Erdogan are off to burn down the Reichstag. Tatty bye.